Hey, it's Gary Carpenter with the MRG Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And I'm excited for today's interview. I've got a good friend of ours by the name of Corinne Anderson with Visiting Angels that has agreed to come on and take some questions about her service and what she does. We have actually created a workshop called the Senior Planning Workshop. It's on Wednesday nights, and Corinne is actually one of our speakers at the event. And so I'm not going to say much more about this because I'm going to let her answer the questions. But I want to introduce a good friend of mine, Corinne Anderson. Corinne, how are you? Oh, hold on a second. We'll get this thing to work. Oh, wait. We got it. There it is. Hello, Corinne. How are you?
I'm good, Gary. How are you this morning?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. We'll figure out all the technology stuff. We got this cool little studio that we're shooting in here, but I wanted to bring you on. I'm excited, as I said earlier, but we've got this. Again, I'll bring this up again. We've got this workshop that's coming up. Which is basically the senior planning clinic, which we're going to try and help people who are in the thinking process of what they should do in the next stage of their life. So what I wanted to be able to do is just kind of ask you some questions about how you can help some people in that thinking process. So give us a little background on you, what you've been doing, who you're working for, all that good stuff.
I came into the senior world about 7 years ago. As you know, my dad had Alzheimer's, and my mom and I took care of him at home. We were very committed to keeping him at home. We didn't know much about the services that were out there, and I wish I could go back and do it over again because we would have done it much differently had I known that stuff. But as a result of going through that process and being in that sandwich generation where I was trying to take care of my own family, my kids who were high school age at the time, and take care of my dad at the same time, I saw what a need there is for services for people that are in that same position. So I made a job change and a career change and came into the senior living world and found myself working for a home care agency. So I'm the client care manager at Visiting Angels of Omaha right now.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. So how long have you been doing it?
7 years.
7 years. That's awesome. Okay. And then you didn't start at Visiting Angels, right? I mean,
Nope. I was with another home care agency, and about 6 months ago, I made the change over to Visiting
Okay.
Angels. It's
Good.
been great, locally owned, and we have a lot of personal care that goes into what we do. And we take each client and look at them as an individual and try to make the best fits with our caregivers and provide the best services that we can for them.
Okay, so now you've said services. So can you tell me kind of in general, what is home care? So when somebody wants to stay at home versus like go into a senior facility, community, and then also what services do you specifically offer them when they stay at home?
Okay. So we provide caregivers that go into the home, and the home can be anything from a traditional home to independent living, assisted living, memory care, community. We take care of people wherever they consider home, and we provide services from our kind of entry level services, which would be our companionship care, and that includes things like light housekeeping, laundry, meal preparation, medication reminders, transportation to appointments, hair salons, those kind of things, to our more higher needs services, which would be like our personal care, where we help people with bathing, dressing, toileting, safety with walking and transferring. We go all the way through like bedbound care. So we work a lot with hospice companies. We partner with hospice to provide end of life care in some situations. So we're taking care of people as when they're bedbound and really needing everything to be taken care of for them.
Okay. And then obviously the next question that comes to mind for me is, so what is the cost of this? Obviously it probably, is it more of a cost per person, or do you have like a menu of things that you charge for?
We have a per hour cost. So we charge by the hour. regardless of the level of care. We charge the same rate regardless of the level of care. The only time our rate differs is if we're taking care of a couple. Occasionally we have a situation where we have a husband and wife or whatever the case may be in a home together and they both need services. So if we're taking care of the wife and the husband is fine, but we're making a meal, like we're going to make a meal for 2 people, not for 1. If we're doing laundry, we'll do laundry for both. But if we're actually having to provide like personal care to both of them, then they're considered couple care, and we do have a higher rate for couple care. Still cheaper than paying for 2 individuals, though.
How do you know if we should bring you in? Like if if it was my parents or whatever, what are the kind of maybe some of the signs that say that we need to say, oh, we should probably give Corinne a call?
Okay. Unfortunately, what we find a lot is that people wait until it's an emergency, and we're getting that phone call on a Friday afternoon. My mom's in the hospital. She broke her hip. She's coming home at 5 o'clock tonight, and we need 24-hour care. That's the situation that we often see. Ideally, we're trying to educate people to look for some of those warning signs. Some of those may be situations where your loved one is forgetting to take their medications, or they're taking them at the wrong time, or the wrong medications at the wrong time. That can lead to obviously lots of issues. Loss of driving privileges is a great one. When our parents get to the point where they can't drive anymore, they feel a huge loss of independence. Oftentimes they're relying on family or friends or neighbors to get them places, and they hate not being able to just get in the car and go when they want to go. So our caregivers provide transportation as part of our services. So if we're there taking care of a client and they need to go to a doctor appointment, they have a hair appointment, they want to run to the grocery store, we're there to take them to those. Falls are another big one. Oftentimes those falls are related to a situation where that senior is doing things that are probably beyond their capabilities at this point in time. So they're carrying laundry up and down stairs. That's a common fall situation. Or taking out the garbage is honestly, that's one of the ones I hear the most, is taking those garbage cans out to the curb and they have a fall in the driveway, whether it's on the ice or snow, or they trip over the concrete or something. Memory decline, if they're starting to get forgetful, if you're concerned about, a loved one wandering or something like that. Even sometimes, we have concerns about our seniors being alone in their house and cooking and like forgetting to turn off the stove or something like that could lead to a fire. So that's another situation. And then I would say frequent UTIs is another one, urinary tract infections. Those seniors tend to have that's a common thing that happens with seniors. And a lot of times it's because they're not keeping themselves clean. They're afraid of getting in and out of the shower because they're afraid of falls. So therefore they're not keeping themselves as clean as they would have otherwise. So that might be another area that they need to
But
know.
what's the process for getting home care services? So we've identified it. We know what we want to do. So what's the actual process for getting the home care set up?
Okay. Really just reach out. So if I get a phone call from a family member who says, hey, I think my mom needs some care, we usually set up an in-care consultation, and that usually can happen within 24 hours of that phone call. And it is a no obligation, no charge consultation. We really just come out, we meet with the potential client and their family members or whoever wants to be there, and we talk about the services that we provide, the needs that they have, and how those kind of match up with each other. And from there can kind of determine, how many hours of care they probably need. I mean, do they have a lot of family support? Do they have neighbors that come over and help them? What really are their needs? And once we work through that, if they're ready to get started, then we go ahead and we sign a service agreement. There is no time commitment with that. So we don't say that you're agreeing to 6 months of care or a year of care or anything like that. But we sign the service agreement, and then I immediately come back to the office and work with our scheduling team to try to make those caregiver matches. And usually we can start services within 24 to 48 hours from that point.
Now, the next question is security, right? So again, they say that the senior population is, the one population that's taken advantage of most. Mm-hmm. So how are your caregivers bonded? Are they insured? Or what's what's the level of assurance that you can give, your clients?
Okay. First of all, our caregivers are hired here locally. So we have an HR manager who does a phone interview with them. If they get past that point, she does an in-person interview with them. She's really looking for somebody who she would want to take care of her own parent. That's kind of our starting point, and usually we can tell that within the first 5 minutes of an interview. But I feel like we can teach anybody to have the skills to be a caregiver. We're non-medical, so we're not asking them to do things that are, require a nursing degree or anything like that. We can train anybody to do the services. What we can't train people is to have the heart for what they're doing. So we want people that have a heart that truly are looking out for the best in their client, and that's kind of our starting point. From there, we do a thorough background screen on them. We train them here locally in our office. We usually schedule a shadow visit. If we have a high needs client, we'll send that caregiver to go meet that client ahead of time and work with another caregiver who's already working with them. And all of our caregivers are bonded and insured. So if they get hurt on the job, we've got workers' comp insurance that's going to take care of that. So they are our employees. They're not like independent contractors or anything like that.
So are you guys hiring? So like if somebody were watching this video and they're thinking, you know what, I think I might want to be a caregiver.
Absolutely. And you know what, this is a great part-time job that has a ton of flexibility. We take care of people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if we have a lot of retired people that work for us. So they're retired, but they still have energy. They still want to make a little bit of money. They want to give back. They have, again, the heart for caregiving, and they want to work 10 or 15 hours a week. That's fine. We have college students, nursing students, moms who want to be home when their kids are home from school. So they work between, 8 and 3 o'clock. We really let our caregivers tell us what schedule they want and what hours they're available for, and then we do our best to match them accordingly.
Awesome. Well, that's it. That's all the questions that I have for you. Those are actually really good, and I know more about Visiting Angels. And the nice thing about having this awareness is knowing when we're out in the field and talking with friends and family and stuff like that, that potentially have questions, we know how to refer. But also too, I think it's just again, knowing that awareness of when is the right time that you should be asking the questions, right? And not waiting until you have to, versus like, hey, what should we do if this does happen to mom or dad? So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's just like anything else. A lot of times we put off those difficult decisions, right? Like taking the car keys away from a loved one. I learned that on, very clearly with my dad. We waited until there was a catastrophe to make that decision. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of us do, because we don't want to have those conversations with our loved ones. But information is power, right? So the more you know in advance, the better prepared you are for when that time comes that you actually need some care. And we're happy to come out and talk to somebody who, may not need care at this time. They might be looking at, a year, 2 or 3 down the road. That's fine. We're happy to come out and meet with you and talk about our services and just, give them the information that they need to make that decision when the time comes.
All right. Well, awesome. So just as a reminder, that Corinne and I and a couple other people in the industry of helping seniors, and obviously my lovely wife, Linda, who would have rather have been here for this interview than me. But you know what? Hey, I'm not so bad, am I?
You're all right, Gary.
Okay. That's good. So here's just another reminder of that workshop that we have coming up on Wednesday nights. And again, if you decide that you want to do something, there'll be a link within this video, or you can actually go to OmahaSeniorPlanningWorkshop.com, and you can always get a hold of Corinne at 531-242-3061 at Visiting Angels. So Corinne, again, thank you so much for joining me on the interview and helping us out with this.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.